After losing my job and spending weeks job hunting, I came home early one afternoon to surprise my wife with lunch. Instead, I walked into the living room and found her laughing in her bathrobe, sitting on another man's lap while saying, "He can't even afford to leave me." I stood there frozen with the sandwiches still in my hands. She looked at me and said, "You were supposed to be out until 5." 6 months later, I showed up to their wedding with a lawsuit summons that made her new husband's jaw drop. I worked as a warehouse supervisor in Akron, Ohio for 7 years. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills. I was good at it. I trained new hires, handled inventory, dealt with truckers, and worked weekends when others called off. I thought that meant something. Apparently not. One Monday morning, I got called into the manager's office. He looked nervous, like he hated what he was about to say. "We're letting you go," he said. "Budget cuts." Just like that. No write-ups, no warnings. They handed me a final paycheck and told me I had 20 minutes to clean out my locker. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I drove home, parked in the driveway, and just sat there for about an hour. I kept thinking, how am I gonna tell Stephanie? We'd been married 6 years. She worked 2 days a week at a dental office, answering phones and handling appointments. Everything else, mortgage, utilities, groceries, car insurance, came from my income. We weren't rich, but we made it work. That night, I told her what happened. She blinked, looked down at her phone, and said, "Well, something else will come along." Then she asked if I could still pay the credit card bill that week. "No, we'll figure it out." No hug. Just a bill. Still, I didn't give up. I got up early every day and applied everywhere. I made a spreadsheet to track every job I tried. I dropped my resume at every warehouse, shipping dock, and delivery yard I could find. I called staffing agencies. I even stood outside a U-Haul center with a sign offering to load trucks. Stephanie wasn't much help. She'd sleep in, go out with friends, come home late. She said she was taking time for herself. I didn't ask too many questions. I just figured she was stressed. I was wrong. It happened on a Wednesday. I was supposed to have an interview in Cleveland that day, but the recruiter called and canceled. Said they already filled the role. So I decided to do something nice. I went to Panera, picked up her favorite sandwich, and thought maybe we'd have lunch together. Like we used to. I pulled into the driveway at 12:30. Her car was already there. I remember thinking, she must have had the day off. I walked into the house, real quiet, holding that paper bag. The place was silent at first, no TV, no music. Then I heard laughter coming from the living room. And then I heard her voice. She said, "He can't even afford to leave me." I stepped into the room and saw her, in her bathrobe, sitting on another man's lap. He had his arms around her waist. She was laughing like they were at a comedy club. They both looked up when I walked in. Stephanie's face changed instantly. She wasn't scared. She wasn't sorry. She just said, "You were supposed to be out until 5. Like I was the one screwing things up. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I just stood there with that damn bag of sandwiches. She got up, tied her robe, and walked right past me. "I'll talk to you later," she said, as if I'd just forgotten to take the trash out. The guy stayed seated. He looked smug, like he knew exactly who I was and didn't give a damn. I slept in my truck that night. Over the next few days, she admitted everything. She'd been seeing Mark for 3 months. Said he made her feel seen. Said he was helping her believe in love again. Whatever that meant. She told me she wanted to take things slow. Not get divorced right away. Just figure things out. I stayed for 3 more weeks. Slept on the couch. Watched her come and go like a guest in her own home. I started feeling like a ghost. I finally packed a bag and left. I moved in with my cousin in Canton. Took a temp job loading trucks. Paid in cash. Ate canned chili and ramen for a month. I hit the gym every night after work. It was the only thing that made me feel normal. 2 months later, I landed a real job. Full-time logistics coordinator. Better pay than before. Company car. Benefits. Things started turning around. Then Stephanie sent me a text. Just wanted to let you know I'm filing for separation. Hope you're doing okay. That was it. No apology. No explanation. Just a casual heads up like she was reminding me to buy milk. A week later, I saw a picture of her on Facebook, holding hands with Mark, a diamond ring on her finger. The caption said, "He gives me the love I always deserved." That's when I decided I was done being quiet. That's when I started planning. I didn't say anything to her after that picture. I didn't comment. Didn't text. Just sat there, staring at her fake smile and that overpriced ring, thinking about all the lies. I started digging. I didn't know much about Mark at first. But people love to brag online. I found his Instagram. Every post was the same: leased cars, vacation rentals, photos with influencers. He called himself a real estate entrepreneur. His company website looked flashy but had no real listings. Just words like leverage, synergy, and growth. I smelled BS. I ran his LLC name through the Ohio Secretary of State's business search. It was active, but barely. I paid for a background check. That's when things got interesting. Mark had 2 civil suits in the last 5 years, both from former clients accusing him of fraud. He settled both out of court. I looked deeper. Turns out, Mark ran a shady rent-to-own scheme in Cleveland. Bought cheap houses, slapped on cosmetic fixes, and sold them at inflated prices to people with bad credit. If they missed one payment, he'd evict them and keep their down payment. Stephanie didn't know any of this. Or maybe she did and didn't care. But I did. And since she wanted to play legal games with separation instead of just divorcing, I started paying attention to everything she said, everything she asked for, everything she didn't say. She filed for separation, not divorce, because she didn't want to split the assets yet. She wanted to keep access to the house we both still technically owned. I learned from my lawyer that since we weren't divorced yet, any financial entanglements could get messy if I wasn't careful. So I got careful. I let her keep the house. Let her think I was letting it all go. I moved on paper. Transferred most of my funds into a new account under a business name. Paid off and closed our joint credit card. I started a side LLC and ran most of my income through it. Meanwhile, I kept watching. She posted about the wedding nonstop. Her second chance at happiness. Her glow up. She even hinted at starting a podcast with Mark about real estate and relationships. I had to laugh. 3 months before their wedding, I ran into someone I hadn't seen in years, my old friend Doug, who used to work in the county records office. I told him about everything. Not to get legal advice, just to vent. But Doug said something that stuck with me. You ever wonder whose name is still on that mortgage? That night, I pulled the deed online. It was still in both our names. Which meant if they defaulted, it hit my credit. But it also meant I had standing to challenge anything involving the house. And that gave me an idea. I wasn't just going to sit back and move on. I wasn't going to throw punches or key cars. That stuff's for kids. I was going to hit them where it hurt. So I gathered everything. The Facebook posts, the timeline of her cheating, the shady business dealings, and, most importantly, the proof that Mark had moved into the house before we were legally separated. In Ohio, that matters. I hired a new lawyer. A smart one. One who specialized in high-conflict divorces and financial recovery. We filed a suit for fraudulent transfer of marital assets, unlawful cohabitation before separation, and damages from breach of spousal support agreement. It sounds complicated, but it's not. We were essentially saying that she used our shared property to house another man, created financial risk through his business, and blocked a clean divorce to avoid losing her lifestyle. We filed it 3 days before their wedding. And we didn't just file it. We had it served. In person. At the wedding. The wedding was set for a Saturday afternoon in June, at a vineyard about an hour outside Akron. One of those places with big white tents, string lights, and a fake rustic barn for photos. I didn't know the details until my lawyer tracked it down. Stephanie had posted a "countdown to forever" on Instagram with the location tagged by mistake. I wasn't invited, of course. But that didn't matter. My lawyer, Jessica, didn't just file the suit. She arranged for the summons to be served at the wedding. But she had an idea, one that made it hit harder. She asked me, "Do you want to be the one to hand it to them?" I said yes. It wasn't about making a scene. I didn't want a fight. I didn't want to be that guy. But I wanted them to see me. I wanted to look them in the eye one last time and know they understood. I hadn't disappeared. I hadn't crumbled. I'd been planning. The day of the wedding, I put on my nicest suit. Not flashy. Just clean and sharp. I shaved, got a haircut, and drove up with the paperwork in my glove box. I got there a few minutes before the ceremony was supposed to start. Guests were still mingling. Someone handed me a flute of champagne, assuming I was just another late arrival. I spotted them quickly. Stephanie stood near the front of the tent in a white dress that was too tight and too sparkly for the setting. Mark had a navy suit on, no tie, grinning like he'd already won something. They were taking pictures by the faux barn wall with a photographer when I walked up. Stephanie saw me first. Her face dropped. Her smile froze. Mark turned, confused at first, then annoyed. I stopped about 10 feet from them and pulled the manila envelope out of my jacket. "Stephanie," I said, loud enough for the nearby guests to hear, but not shouting, "you've been served." I handed her the papers. Mark stepped forward like he was going to say something, but then he read the first line of the summons, and his mouth fell open. The best part? Jessica had included a section detailing how Mark's presence in the house before legal separation could count as unlawful cohabitation and how his own assets might be pulled into the case if it went to court. She'd worded it carefully, but the meaning was clear. They both looked stunned. Stephanie looked like she might cry. Mark looked like he'd just been hit in the stomach. I turned and walked away. That should have been enough. But it wasn't. Because a week later, I got a call. It was from a woman named Trina. She was quiet at first, said she found me through the case filing. She said she used to be engaged to Mark. He'd ghosted her 2 years ago after she loaned him 10 grand for a down payment on a house he never bought. She never got it back. She still had texts. Bank transfers. Emails. She even had copies of fake contracts he made her sign. She asked if I wanted them. I said, absolutely. That changed everything. We amended the suit to include fraud and financial misconduct. My lawyer reached out to 2 other people Mark had scammed, and suddenly we had a pattern. Stephanie tried to play dumb, said she didn't know about his past. But we found emails between her and Mark where she admitted she'd used my tax return to help Mark cover a deal while we were still married. That money was gone. The court didn't care about her feelings. They cared about facts. Stephanie started panicking. Tried to offer a quick divorce settlement. said she'd walk away from the house. She even tried to talk to me in person, waited outside my job one afternoon like she was trying to make peace. I didn't fall for it. I had waited long enough. The court date came fast after that. Stephanie's lawyer tried to delay it, but my lawyer pushed hard. We had stacks of proof. Bank records, old emails, signed statements from Trina and 2 other people Mark had conned. We laid it all out. The judge didn't even blink. He saw through the excuses. Stephanie sat there in the courtroom looking like a different person. No fancy makeup. No big hair. Just tired. She didn't speak much. Mark tried to play it cool, but his lawyer looked like he was ready to throw him under the bus just to save himself. Then came the ruling. The judge declared that the marital assets had been tampered with. Because Stephanie used shared funds to support Mark's business, she owed me half of everything I could prove was spent, plus damages for delaying the divorce while cohabiting with another man. On top of that, Mark's involvement opened a door to civil claims from the other people he defrauded. Trina's case was refiled using our evidence. 2 others followed suit. But the best part? The house. Because Stephanie had tried to keep it while shacking up with Mark, and because their combined actions violated our separation terms, the judge ordered the house be sold, and I got 60% of the profits. She cried when the order was read. Mark stormed out of the courtroom. Didn't wait for her. I didn't say anything to her. Just stood up, thanked my lawyer, and walked out. But it didn't end there. 2 months later, I heard through the grapevine that Stephanie had to move back in with her sister in Cuyahoga Falls. Mark's business collapsed. With the lawsuits piling up and his name all over county records, nobody wanted to do business with him. I checked his website a few times, eventually it just said, "Site under construction." They never got legally married. Their wedding had been a staged ceremony with no license filed. It was all for show. I moved on. Bought a modest condo in Lakewood. Nothing fancy. Just quiet. Looking back, I made mistakes. I trusted her too much. I didn't ask questions when I should have. I tried to be a provider while she was already pulling away. But I learned. Now I don't chase people. I watch what they do, not what they say. And if someone ever tries to laugh in my face again, sitting in another man's lap, thinking I'm too broke or too weak to walk away, I'll remind them what I did the last time someone made that mistake. There's not much, next, to the revenge, it was done. But life kept moving, and so did I. A few months after everything was settled, I got a letter from Stephanie. Handwritten. 3 pages long. She said she was sorry. Not just for cheating, but for the way she treated me like I was disposable. She said she didn't see the value in what I gave her until it was gone. She said Mark turned out to be everything I warned her about. And worse. He'd drained her savings. Left her with debt she didn't understand. Told her he'd handle everything, then disappeared the second real trouble started. She ended it with, "I never should have doubted your worth." I didn't write back. Some people might say I should have forgiven her. That people change. Maybe they do. But I also changed. I started seeing someone new. Her name's Lisa. Works at a logistics firm, like me. She doesn't care about flashy stuff. She's kind. Direct. Honest. One night I told her the whole story. Every piece of it. From the job loss to the courtroom. She didn't say much. Just put her hand on mine and said, "That'll never be me." And for the first time in a long time, I believed it. So that's it. I lost my job. I lost my wife. But I got myself back. And when they tried to laugh at me like I was some kind of joke, I gave them something they'd never forget. About a year after it all went down, I ran into Stephanie again. It was at a gas station just outside Akron. I had stopped for coffee and gas on my way to a client site. She pulled up to the pump across from mine in a rusted-out Honda. She didn't see me at first. She looked thinner. Older. Tired. Her clothes were plain. No jewelry. No makeup. She looked like life had wrung her out. When she did notice me, her face froze. We locked eyes for a few seconds. She gave me a small nod. I gave her nothing back. She got in her car and drove off. I thought maybe I'd feel something. Sadness. Pity. Anger. But I didn't. There was just silence. That was when I really knew it was over. Not just the marriage. The revenge. All of it. It was behind me. Some scars don't fade. But they stop hurting. Eventually. Today, my life is simple. I go to work. I go home. I build. Quietly. Steadily. I don't need anyone to clap for me. Because the ones who tried to destroy me, they already watched me win.